A very good morning to you all. I would like to welcome you to our webinar for today. Today we will be discussing the topic Fronius software applications. And I'm joined by my colleagues, Mohamed Sidat, our technical sales advisor based in South Africa, Johannesburg. Also, Cyprian Okolo, our technical sales advisor for Western Africa based in Lagos, Nigeria. And myself, David Mwangi, the technical sales advisor for Eastern Africa. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. So together we will be discussing this agenda for today. We will look at the Solar.Start, then we go into Solarweb. After that, my colleague Cyprian will take over and discuss the Fronius Solar.SOS, as well as the Solar configurator, and then later on my colleague Mohammed will take over and look at the last three topics. We will also be doing a few polls, so this will be launched at the appropriate times, and we do encourage you all to give us your feedback on these polls. So let's get started and start looking at the Fronius Solar.Start. So the Fronius Solar.Start is, in a nutshell, an inverter commissioning software application. And this can be used as we start looking at the key features of this application. Can be used to commission all our inverters. So we are talking about the Gen 24 Plus inverters, the Tauro, as well as the data manager. And the data manager, as you know, is integrated or can be used for commissioning and communication of data from all our Snap inverters. The commissioning can also be done for an external data manager, and this is the one that we refer to as the data manager box. And also the previous version of Fronius inverters, such as the IG Plus inverter. Another key thing to note about the Fronius.Start would be the fact that this is there will be no monitoring inside the app. So if monitoring is required, there is a link that is provided inside the app. And once you click on this link, then you are taken to a separate browser that opens up Solarweb for monitoring. So this app, the Solar.Start, will make it very easy for commissioning of inverters using a Wi-Fi connection. So you are not going to require to access Wi-Fi settings for you to connect your inverter into the Solar.Start app, especially on your phone. So also another key feature that we can talk about the Fronius.Start app is the fact that there will be easy connection to the web interface. So when you want to do a bit of on-site monitoring, as well as changing the settings on your inverters, as well as the on-pilot. So the Fronius.Start app will come in very, very handy as far as that is concerned. Also, it will provide a link to the Solar Online Support tool, and also other support documents for different Fronius inverters right from the Solar.Start. But of course, once these are going to be opened as separate browsers for you to be able to access the relevant information. In terms of product registration, this can also be done using the Fronius.Start. And the way to access this app is, of course, by downloading from the appropriate app store. If you're using an Android phone, then you go to the Google Play Store. And if you're using an Apple phone, for instance, then you go to the App Store or Apple Store for the app. So when you have the app downloaded into your phone, you get an icon that looks like this. So this is just a screenshot of the phone's display. And when you click on this app icon, then you get into this landing page that allows you now to access further the various menu options that this Solar.Start app is providing for you. So the landing page has quite a number of details to look at. So there are two ways that you can get started when you especially want to commission an inverter. So you can start an installation directly. So in this case, no login details will be required to commission the product in question. Or you can also log in using your Fronius credentials through what we are now referring to as Fronius IAM. And therefore, once you log in with credentials, you are going to be able to unlock more options inside the Fronius.Start app. Also, whenever you start or click on the icon in your phone and you open up this app, there is always a reminder to activate the Wi-Fi connection. So, of course, the Wi-Fi connection will be required to connect to your inverter. And therefore, this is important for you to know that this is not going to sort of work in a Bluetooth connection. You're going to require a Wi-Fi connection between your phone and the inverter when you're doing the inverter commissioning. So let's now have a look at the setup page of the Fronius.Start app and what you can do in the setup page. So in the setup page, you can choose quite a number of products that you would like to commission. As already mentioned, the Fronius Solar.Start app is going to be able to commission for you the Gen 24 Plus or the Tauro, and these are the inverters that are running using the pilot as the data communication module. And then you're going also to be able to choose the snap inverters, and these are the Echoes, the Galvos, Primo, and the SYSYEM hybrid. And these are the inverters that are fitted or can operate using either a data manager or the data manager box. Also, additionally, you can already, as mentioned before, commission a data manager box or the previous series of Fronius inverters directly from the Fronius.Start app. So just a reminder for you, whenever you are using this app for commissioning, you do require to have the GPS option activated in your phone. And this is necessary or required for searching the Wi-Fi or the SSID of the Fronius inverter whenever you want to connect to your inverter. So when you are giving permissions for the Fronius.Start app, this is one of the permissions that is going to be required to access GPS settings. So in addition to that, there are three key permissions that will be required for the app to work properly. The camera is one of them, and the camera will be used primarily for scanning the data matrix that is printed on the side of the inverter. Already, as mentioned, the app is going to require location permission through the GPS, and this is going to be used for scanning the SSID of the inverter Wi-Fi. And also, the app is going to require storage permission into your phone, and this is going to be used for downloading relevant PDF files and other documents that could be required and can be used also whenever you are offline. Let's now have a brief look into how to commission using the Fronius Solar.Start app, the Gen 24 Plus inverters, as well as the Tauro inverters. So as already mentioned, the Fronius.Start will make it very, very easy for you to go through the commissioning process. One of the key things that you're going to note is the fact that there is going to be an automatic connection between the inverter and the Fronius.Start app. So this is going to happen once the inverter Wi-Fi access point has been activated. And should there be a problem that you are not able to find the inverter Wi-Fi access point, then you can also opt to manually within the app to search for the SSID of the inverter. So also something that is important for you to know with this Fronius.Start is the fact that there will be no automatic connection for iOS devices. So the automatic connection will be only for Android devices. So that is important for you to bear in mind. So also, if no automatic connection is possible, or when you're using an iOS device, you can scan the data matrix that is provided on the side of the inverter. And that is why we say that the Fronius.Start app is going to require camera access or camera permission. So you come to the setup menu and you can choose scan data matrix. And there are two kinds of codes or 2D codes that are provided on the side of the inverter. So there's what we refer to as the QR code and the data matrix. So what is required to be scanned is the data matrix, which has more, let's say, columns and rows included. But the easiest way to differentiate between the data matrix and the QR code is from these three squares that are on the side or at the top on the sides of the QR code. So whenever you see a code with these three squares on the sides, then automatically know that this is a QR code. And as far as the Fronius inverters are concerned, when you want to achieve an automatic connection using the data matrix, then this is the code that you're going to be able to scan on the side of the inverter. So also, if an automatic connection fails, just like I've said, simply activate this permission in the app, and that is going to allow you to take all the necessary information from the data matrix. So also, just to repeat myself here, if scanning or an automatic connection has failed, so it could be that maybe you don't have a proper scanning application in your phone for the data matrix, and also that an automatic connection to the Wi-Fi connection has failed. The alternative, therefore, would be to search for the inverter Wi-Fi signal or the SSID from the inverter. And once you establish a connection to that, then you can connect to whichever SSID of the inverter is concerned. So in most cases, if you are scanning a Fronius snap inverter, you're going to see the Fronius name as well as the data manager ID that is going to follow the Fronius name after the underscore. So, and once you establish a connection through your web browser, then you're going to require this password, which is the normal one that we put always for the Fronius Wi-Fi connection for the inverters. So as a summary, after connection, as far as the Gen 24 Plus and the Tauro are concerned, then the web interface of the two inverters is going to be activated automatically. But for more information on how to do the step-by-step commissioning of the Tauro and the Gen 24 Plus inverters, you can access relevant information from our YouTube channel by searching Gen 24 Plus commissioning, for instance, or when you do share this presentation with you, you're going to find this link included, and by clicking it, you can access the relevant information on how to commission both the Tauro and the Gen 24 Plus inverters. Let's now go into how to commission the snap inverters using the Solar.Start app, the Fronius.Start app. So as far as the snap inverters is concerned, already as mentioned, these are all inverters that are operating using the data manager. So the data manager is going to allow you to set up the snap inverters. And this has to be done, the initial commissioning, just for your information, of the inverter. This includes selection of country setup, language, and all that. Still has to be done via the inverter display. So this short information is also available on how to activate the Wi-Fi access point through the display. So, and I believe most of us are already familiar with this procedure. Already as mentioned also, this section for commissioning can also be used to connect to the data manager box and the IG+. Yeah, as an overview, let's now quickly look at the main menu of the Solar.Start app. And the start menu here is, of course, just what I've described, that is going to allow you to do commissioning and launch commissioning wizards for various inverters, the Snap inverter, IG+, Gen 24, and the Tauros, as well as the OnPilot. The next menu button or selection goes to product registration. And this is going to allow you to register your products in Fronius Solarweb. Then the next menu after that is the inverter web interface that allows you to have easy access of the inverter web interface. This is when you especially want to do some changes on the settings, or you want to do on-site monitoring to see critical maybe production or consumption data from your system. Then there is also the on-pilot web interface that allows you now to commission something like a an on-pilot directly from the Solar.Start app, and also can allow you to do settings, change of settings, as well as monitoring of the on-pilot performance on-site. Also, there's another menu that is critical that is provided here, especially for our installers, that is going to be very, very handy out of the phone app, which is the SOS menu. And this is going to link you to an external browser that is going to now open up the Solar online support tool. And this will be discussed further by my colleague, Cyprian. In addition, we have quite a number of tools that are integrated in the Fronius website for supporting our installers and also customers. And this link is also directly provided in the Fronius Solar.Start app. So by clicking this menu option, you are taken to an external browser that guides you through the relevant section of the Fronius website to be able to access all that information. And then, of course, there's another section for settings where you can configure quite a number of things, also give permissions and stuff like that. And then when you log out, you are taken back to the main login page of the Solar.Start app. Let's also look at Fronius Solarweb as the next software application that is available from Fronius. And actually, in the recent past, Fronius has done a lot of work to make sure that all our software applications are compatible, especially with the mobile devices. And the Fronius Solarweb is no exception. So this app, of course, we do know about it, that it provides a complete overview and allows you extensive control of your PV system. And this can be achieved anytime and anywhere. So in most cases, a lot of people do know that this Solarweb application can be used in your desktop or laptop computers. But now we have a proper phone app that allows you to do all your monitoring from your mobile phones. So this is going also to be very handy that anytime you are in the field or at home, you can easily monitor your system without having to, let's say, log into your laptops or computers. So what are the requirements for using the Fronius Solarweb application? So the key two things are required. Number one is, of course, a Fronius inverter, and then that inverter must have a data communication card. So when you look at the Fronius Synap inverters, we are talking about the data manager as the communication card that allows you to bring data into Solarweb. And then you look at the newer generation of Fronius inverters, including the Gen 24 Plus and the Tauro inverters. These are going to be integrated with the pilot card that are going also to act as the communication cards and data management cards for these two inverters. In addition, we highly recommend that as Fronius smart meter is included in the installation. In most cases, especially in Africa, the smart meter will be required for zero feeding regulation to make sure that you are not exporting any PV power into the grid. But the addition of the smart meter also allows us more information, especially as far as consumption is concerned, into Solarweb. And that therefore gives us a lot of data that we can analyze and monitor straight from Solarweb. So this graph kind of gives us an overview or an indication of how a system being monitored in Solarweb looks like. So you can monitor daily energy balance as well as monthly and yearly comparisons at any time. So in this particular example, we can see that we have an installation including also something like a non-pilot, which is one of our other relatively new products that we are also highly recommending for the African market to be able to use excess energy from your PV systems. And this is able to trace the water temperature if the on-pilot is fitted with a PT1000 temperature sensor. So you can monitor out of Solarweb what your temperature levels for water has been throughout. Also, if your system has a battery integrated also, you can also see what has been the state of charge of the battery from time to time. So Solarweb becomes therefore a very important tool or a software application for quite a number of things. So what are the key functions that Solarweb allows you to achieve? So there will be the first critical one, which is the registration of your PV systems in Solarweb. And this allows you also to extend warranties as appropriate for the particular products that you're using, and also depending on your customer requirements. So as you know, most of our inverters when shipped come only with 2 years warranty. But once you register your PV system in Solarweb, you're able to have an extension of 3 years minimum for free, and therefore you get 5 years warranty. In addition, you can purchase other warranty models depending on what are the requirements for your particular installation for a maximum of 20 years extension. In addition to that, now once you have registered your system in Solarweb, you can have or achieve a system overview, just like I've shown you before. But also very, very important is the data analysis. So what can you do with all this data that is coming from your system into Solarweb? You can generate reports, and you realize also extensive views and comparisons between either 2 different MPPTs in one inverter, or 2 inverters in one system, or you could have 2 similar installations in the same locality, and you're able to compare them or to do very detailed analysis of the 2 systems to see if they are working optimally in Solarweb. Also, Solarweb affords you an opportunity for consulting services. So this is to provide the customer with 100% support and use Solarweb also as a service tool. So also in terms of consulting, you also get the opportunity for system extensions. So if you don't have a system integrated with a non-pilot, you're able to see from Solarweb if your system has any excess energy. Are you able to retrofit a non-pilot? Can you also integrate a storage system as far as batteries are concerned and so forth? And therefore, Solarweb, the application, becomes very handy for this kind of analysis for your systems. So what do you need to do to bring your systems to Solarweb? I believe most of us do know, but for those who do not know, there are 2 ways that you can bring your systems to Solarweb. The number one way is if you do not have an existing Solarweb account, you have to register or create a new account in Solarweb. So you're going to be guided, whether from your phone app or the desktop version, you're going to be guided on the requirements or the details that you have to fill in to be able to create a new account in Solarweb. On the other hand, the second way you can bring in a system into Solarweb is if you have an existing Solarweb account, and then from the phone app or the desktop version, you can click on the add system, and the system also very easily guides you into the process of adding a new system in Solarweb. Going further into how useful Solarweb can become as a remote service tool, there are quite a number of things that can be achieved. You can give permissions for how the different people or different interested parties view the system in Solarweb. There are different permissions for owner, supervisor, and guest. So, and the owner will have overall, let's say, access. Also, the supervisor has almost administrative access to the system. But you can also choose to give quite a number of people guest rights into the system just to see how the system is producing power. And this is also something that can be quite useful for those people who are not technically, let's say, or familiar with Solarweb. If it's a customer, you can give them just the guest rights so that they are not able to change or to make any settings adjustments in the system. Also, Solarweb becomes an important tool when you're thinking about remote software updates for your systems. And this can be achieved for all systems that are running on the data manager, the pilot, as well as the on-pilot, the device for heating water. So the pilot, like I said before, is the data communication module for the Gen 24 Plus inverters, as well as the Tauro inverters. Then the Solarweb also can be a very useful tool when you're talking about service messages and the state codes for different errors that the inverters can encounter when in operation. So right out of Solarweb, you are able to know whether your system is working okay or not, and take appropriate remedial measures if these are required. Also, as mentioned before, Solarweb gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of data comparison, real-time data history, what is the energy balance, and therefore, are you making the most of your generated PV energy, or is there room for improvement in terms of retrofitting new appliances, maybe an on-pilot, maybe at a later stage, a watt pilot for charging your vehicles, or even a battery storage system. So, and with that, I think I've come to the end of my session, and I'll be handing over to my colleague Cyprian to take you through the next two topics. Cyprian, if you can take over from here, please.
Yes, indeed, David. Thanks a lot for your wonderful presentation. And hello, everybody. I will be continuing the presentation from this point, and I will be taking you on the Fronius.SOS or Solar Online Support, as it is named fully, and also will be taking you on the Solar configurator. But before I continue, I would love to launch a poll at this point. So I would love to have us participate in this poll, because your responses serve as a very, very important feedback channel for us. So the poll question is, how, I believe you can see the poll questions now. Okay, so how do you usually contact technical support for an inverter issue? So if you have any inverter issue, any case, service case, how do you normally contact your technical support? Do you do that through by contacting the distributor, or emailing the manufacturer, or calling the manufacturer, or using an application to inform the manufacturer? So I will be leaving the poll on for, let's say, 15 seconds, and then I would collect the polls, share your responses, and then continue with the presentation. I'll be closing in 5 seconds. Okay, thank you very much for your responses. Oh, I can see that attendees are still answering, so I'll just give it a bit of time and then close. Thank you very much for your response. This is greatly appreciated. Good, so let me share our responses. So as we can see, 33% of our attendees say they usually contact the distributor. The same percentage also say that they email the manufacturer. And then coincidentally, same percentage for those that call the manufacturer and those that use application to inform the manufacturer. That's 17% each. What a coincidence. So thanks a lot for your responses. And of course, with the use of our applications, it makes it quite easier to actually solve service cases when it comes to Fronius products. So thanks once again, and we shall be continuing with the presentation. Great. So what is the Fronius SOS? The Fronius SOS is simply a fast, informative, and easy to use app that makes it possible for self-service for technicians and customers alike. It is available at all time, 24/7, without any waiting periods. With this, you can actually make a data query and, of course, find out warranty information about all your products. It makes case history and troubleshooting very, very easy. And then, of course, with this app, you can actually have an exchange process done. So this is basically what the app is about. But of course, there's plenty more that entails, which I'll be guiding you through. And eventually, I will be taking you through a live demo if time permits. So let's take a look at what the previous version looked like. That is the Fronius SOS 1.0. As you can see, this is a screenshot of what the app looked like before we now have the recent version that was released a couple of months ago. So this is how the app version looks like. Of course, it is downloadable, Google Play and Apple Store. And yeah, so with this, it makes it quite easy to have your technical issues sorted out. So this is the app version, and then this is the desktop version. And I will be, time permitting, I will be doing a live demo using the desktop version. So this is of course a screenshot of how the desktop version looks like. So of course, we've worked on the previous version and then added extra features to make it much more user-friendly. So let's go through the key features of the Solar.SOS app. First off is the digital registration process, which is now 100% digital. So in this case, there's no need for any written declaration of consent. And if you download the app, this is, of course, the first thing you will be faced with if you want to register the app. So you will have to get or sign the digital declaration of consent. So it's going to come up as a pop-up. And then if you accent to all the regulations, all you need to do is just to check some boxes and then you're done. So in a case where, for whatever reason, you were unable to go through or click or go through the declaration of consent process, it will, of course, appear for you to be able to do so subsequently in the app. Because if you don't do so, you will be restricted to certain features of this particular app. And then the registration is just like my colleague David stated initially. We use the IAM registration platform. So the IAM registration platform is simply an inter-app registration platform from Fronius that makes it possible for you to use your login data from other apps to register for any other app. So let's take, for example, you already have a login data for Solarweb. So you don't need to create any other login data for the Solar.SOS app. So you can use your registration credentials for Solarweb app to do the same on the SOS app. So this makes it absolutely easy for you to access all our apps for you to make use of them. So still talking about key features, we have the account switcher. So it is possible for an installer, for example, to switch accounts. So let's say we have an installer that works for 2 companies, and this makes it possible for this same installer to have a different profile, different company profiles, as you can see on this screenshot. So an employer working for company X serves company A, and same person working for company Y serves customer B, as you can see. So I must note here for you that you have a maximum of 3 accounts that you can operate in this particular app. So troubleshooting have been made very, very easy, which is one of the key feature of the Solar.SOS app. It actually takes up from the existing features in the previous version. And of course, we added a bit of increase in usability, and we also have a step-by-step instruction for service case success. Of course, push notification and message center is possible, through which you have a transmission of important data directly to your smartphone. With this, you have all updates, all available updates pushed to your device, of course, including news, error and fault messages, and all the likes. You would have them pushed to your device for you to have access to and take an informed decision with respect to the message or notification that you have. So in-app communication, this is a very, very cool cool feature about this app. So in it, you're able to communicate with tech support. And then most importantly, if you have a service case, for example, you don't need to start going through your emails to search for history or details of your inquiry per se. Through this message in-app communication, you can trace all your history in terms of a communication. Let's say you want to have a device or a component replaced, you can of course trace all your message history in the in-app communication pane. So with this, it makes messages related to every created case, and then you have direct contact to the tech support. And of course, you can send pictures and attachments via this means. And it's a simple communication path. And then, of course, which makes it easy to notify and each other, that is the customer or the technician and the tech support personnel that is attending to you. So delivery of information. Delivery of information is, of course, visible. So this enables you to properly track your replacement component, for example. So here, as we have it on a screenshot, you have indications on when your package or your replacement device was ordered, or when it is out for delivery, and then, of course, a likely time of arrival. So this makes it possible for you to, as an installer, to plan yourself and, of course, better manage your time. So you can, of course, contact your client or customer and tell him that, okay, your package is on the way. It will be arriving on so dates. And then with this, I will be coming, say, 2 days later or the following day after arrival to come and do the replacement. So this, of course, this information helps both the installer and the client, and of course, serves them with accurate information about the service of their devices. Yeah, of course, you also get manuals and videos. So with this, if you have a particular interest in a particular product, for example, this feature helps you to gather all the information in connection to this particular device or exchange component. It has it in a HTML5 format. It includes installation instructions, instructional manual, service instruction, additional documents, and of course, short instruction clips, and of course, YouTube links to YouTube videos, which of course will enable you to get all the information you need about the Fronius product or about any service case in particular. So in terms of case overview, just like I stated earlier, it makes it very, very easy here, because you can actually filter out cases with respect to time period. So this helps you to kind of focus on a particular case, service case, and helps you to properly track it. And then, of course, gives you an overview of all the current and past cases as you may have it. So with this same Solar.SOS app, you can, of course, query device data, which is already an existing feature in the previous version. You can now get device data, warranty conditions, and of course, system name on Solar. I can see from screenshots, it gives you the device name, tells you the warranty state of your device, the registration status, and of course the system name. This system name here actually comes in very, very handy in case where you have to communicate with tech support. So this helps them to actually do remote troubleshooting if that should be the case. So, like I promised, I'll take some time to do a demo for us to see. Yes, so this is basically what you get when you want to log in. And then by the time you have entered your credentials, it would have to authenticate your login credentials and then patch you in to your profile. So once this is done, you will be introduced, or you will you will be introduced to the troubleshooting pane first of all. So that is where you get to do your troubleshooting. So let's take, for example, you have a serial number of a particular Fronius device. So it's automatically, by the time you type it in, it automatically detects it and then tells you that, well, the serial number has to be that of a SYSYEM 1024 device. And then if you now have a state code, let's take, for example, let's say 401 and enter. So let's say you have state code 401 on the display of your snap inverter. The SYSYEM, let's take it as a SYSYEM 10, for example. So state code 401 simply says that you have a power stack communication error. So by the time it does this, it of course profiles or tells you the cause of this problem, and of course profiles a solution to this particular case. So in this case, it says that the ribbon cable between the filter board and the AC board is faulty or not connected properly. And then the solution is that you should check the ribbon cables between the SYSYEM field. So this is basically the filter board of the SYSYEM, and then that of the SYSYEM AC. That SYSYEM AC simply means the SYSYEM AC board. So you should check the ribbon cables between them to check if it is faulty or not connected properly. So by the time you do this, if the service case was solved, you can now click on solved, and then that will be the end of it. Of course, you will end up being a happy installer or customer. But if in the case that the problem or the state code still exists after checking this and seeing that it was connected properly and it's not faulty, you can of course move to the next state, because there are different possible causes for this particular error. So if you click on the arrow here, it will now take you to the next possible reason why this happened. So the next possible reason is that there's a possible hardware fault due to low isolation resistance on the DC side. So the solution here is that you should make sure that the DC isolation value is above the chosen resistance, so that even in wet environmental condition, insulation settings can of course be affected. So as you can see, it gives you a step-by-step process on how you can actually fix your case. And that's how you will go about doing your troubleshooting. There are other steps to be taken, but of course, by the time you have this app, it will be straightforward for you to see for yourself. So let's take the second pane here, which is cases. So with cases, it gives you a lowdown of cases that you have solved using this app, and of course with the dates. So you can easily select them and then find out the status of these respective cases. Device data, here you'd have to type in your device serial number and search. So with this, you're able to get your device data. It tells you that it is a SYSYEM 12.5. Now it has specifically told you what the device identity is. It tells you that the Fronius warranty is up to 20. Fronius warranty plus that was activated 2017 and it's lasting up till 2025. And then the system name, like I told you, very important. So this makes it easy for remote troubleshooting from tech support. And yeah, so you can have every other information you need about the device. In terms of exchange or repair, in this case, if you have any faulty component, you can impute the serial number here, add the state codes that are appearing on the display, and then of course you have the opportunity to give a description of what the service case is, of what the failure is. And then of course, if you have pictures, you can of course attach them and then send. Yes, I told us about manuals earlier on. So the same thing is applicable. So in this case, you have lots and lots of materials gathered for you to go through. Meanwhile, you have taken note of this, so you have to filter it according to your language. So since we are on an English webinar here, so we're going to select English and then search. You can see that it's going to now select all the English information and of course documents for you. And in case you still want to filter it down further, if you're not interested in all the information, you're just interested in only installation instruction, you can just click on installation instruction and it will narrow it down to the amount of documents that are available in this regard. So that's basically it for the Fronius Solar.SOS. So I hope we got all the information that we're actually looking out for in this regard. So we shall now be continuing with the next app we'll be discussing, so which is the Fronius Solar Configurator 4.0. So it's basically a dimensioning app that makes PV system design pretty easy. As you can see, this is a screenshot of what it looks like. I'll be discussing more on it in the subsequent slides. So let's take a look at what the configurator is all about. So first of all, like I mentioned, it's an online tool that makes for fast and easy dimensioning of PV system. You have the possibility of individual consulting, just the tailored PV design for your individual customer projects. Of course, updates are always possible because of our continuous improvements and actualizations. Of course, it is free of charge and readily available. And of course, most importantly, it is easily usable. So data requirements for the configurator. This leads us to the composition of the Solar Configurator 4.0, because it gives you the opportunity of imputing all the mandatory fields, which makes it easy for dimensioning possibility. So as you can see, it comprises of three major components. We have the PV module component, we have the inverter component, and then we have a general. The general basically means other general settings that you have to make. For the PV module, here is where you enter all the particulars of the PV you intend using. So in this example, we have a Jinko Solar, and then the specific data or the specification of the particular module that you're using, which is a JKM315M60. And then on the inverter side, you get to choose the country of installation, the series of the inverter, and then the specific type of the inverter you're using. You also get to impute the inverter ratio. And then, of course, in this pane, you can select a preferable project name. Storage here, if you're using a Gen 24 Plus, which is battery connectable, you can now make a selection of the BYD HPM or HVS battery you want to use, impute your annual power consumption, and then of course select your load profile. So once this is done and all data imputed correctly, you are going to get something like this. So it gives you a comprehensive list of all possibilities and the system configuration options. So as you can see here, for some that are new, or this is new to them, it might appear a bit confusing or complex, but I assure you it's nothing of that nature. So let's, this gives us the possibilities of the configurations that you can make use of, using either 32 modules, 33 modules, up to 38, with respect to the inverter ratio. As you can see in this case, the highest inverter ratio here is 120%. That is because we have selected the inverter ratio maximum to be 120%. And I believe we also know, just in case you don't know, our inverters of course, can be over-dimensioned up to 150%. So you can actually do that setting on this pane. And then once you do that, you're going to get the respective comprehensive list with respect to, in relation to what you have imputed. So to make this easy, we're going to take one column and then explain what this result means. So we will be selecting this particular column and then we'll now have an explanation of it, as you can see in this slide. So this basically means in interpretation that this tells you the number of modules that you'll be needing with respect to the inverter ratio. By the way, inverter ratio is basically the ratio of the module capacity in wattage over the inverter capacity in wattage, of course. So yeah, so that's basically it. And then this gives you the selected storage with self-sufficiency and own consumption level. That is the selected storage option that was, selected by the person imputing all the data. And then, of course, the solar configurator gives you the optimum or recommends the optimum storage capacity for you to use. So if you intend to go with the optimum, you can do that, but you of course have the freedom to actually choose the storage capacity that you would want to use. And then these options down here gives you the possible configuration and layout of the PV modules with respect to the strings. So this, for example, as you can see, my pointer simply tells us that we're going to be using one string that comprises or composed of 20 modules. That's for this first one. PV1, by the way, means MPPT1. PV2 also means MPPT2. So, like I said, the first figure here gives you the number of strings, while the next one gives you the number of PV modules connected to that particular string. So, if we now go ahead and select this, for example, we will arrive with, we'll be having something like this. So it will bring up the full data of this particular configuration, telling you how much, all the information you're going to get on MPPT1 and MPPT2, and then give you the general information, the comparison of the inverter ratio and the total or maximum power that will be generated by this particular system. And then furthermore, we didn't stop at that. If you click on Create Report, you're going to get the PDF download of all the data for this particular configuration. That makes it really, really handy and really easy for installers to use, because it gives them the opportunity to make attachments to individual offers, helps them to confirm or correct system design. Because of its ease of use, it can also help in clarification of technical details in terms of string configuration, module types, and inverter types. Of course, it helps you make your battery design and selection. Of course, this is free, as mentioned earlier, no need for registration. And of course, you will always get full support from Fronius. It is available everywhere and at any time, and configurable for all our devices, be it the Snap inverter, the Tauro, and of course the Gen 24 Plus. I would have loved at this point to do a live demo, but because of time constraints, I won't be able to do that. But I will leave you with this link. With this link, you'll be able to have access to the Solar configurator, with which you can be able to have a little bit, have a look at it, and then just have a good experience with it. So you can access it through this link or through www.solarweb.com. So with that, I've come to the end of my part of the presentation. So I will be handing over to Mo, who will be continuing with the rest of the presentation. So Mo, If you're here, please, you can continue.
Okay, yeah, just to continue with the presentation. Yeah, so with the Datalogger, as I showed you in the previous slide, you can download it from our website. Once you do that, you can then open it up. And once you've done that, you can then search for any data manager IDs or for any pilot card IDs, which are basically the communication cards for the data, for the Snap inverter and for the Gen 24 Plus, respectively. Okay, however, please make sure that you are on the same network as to which inverters you'd like to find. And once you've done the searching, you will then be given this little dialog box, which will show you all the data managers that were found in the search, or all the pilot cards which you found. You then select the applicable one, which is of interest. Once you do that, you select, and once it does that, it will then give you and take you towards the web user interface of the inverter. So this, I would say, is a very short way or quick way to sort of, get the IP address of your Snap inverter or even of your Gen 24 Plus. Okay, moving on to the Solar.Service program. How do you get this program? Firstly, this program can also be downloaded from our website. So you just need to go to this applicable link on the top. And once you're on that, just scroll down and you can then download the Solar.Service program. This program provides a whole range of useful information about your photovoltaic system. And it's also another platform to monitor your system in the case as to which it is not connected to Solarweb. There could be many reasons for your system not connected to be connected to Solarweb. And one of those reasons is maybe you have really bad internet on site. It could be a farm that's really very far away from the nearest telecom tower. And in that case, it will really be very hard to use Solarweb. So just remember, you can always use Solar.Service to do monitoring of the PV system on site. Okay, that's very important, on site. Okay, the information will also help the installer and will also assist our technical support team during any troubleshooting activities. So always do keep that in mind. So what is Solar.Service? It allows for quick analysis, configuration, and servicing of your fleet of Fronius inverters. It gives you a quick overview of system status. The system status of all Fronius components can be viewed at a glance. Clear visualization for easy pinpointing of defects, so if you have any error codes. It also allows for easy to set the most important inverter functions, and all settings and any servicing and maintenance work can be carried out on site as well as remotely. And as I said earlier on, you can get your full list of any status codes, which could potentially mean that there could be something wrong with the inverter. Looking at the advantages, it's going to save you time and money, it's convenient, and lastly, it's efficient. How do you connect to the system? You can connect the PC to the Fronius PV system, and this can be done in two ways. The first way is via LAN, and the second way is via wireless LAN. Okay, so I have this little image over here in the center, and this is Fronius Solar.Service, which is installed on your laptop. You can then use a router and the World Wide Web to access your Fronius inverters. Or what you could do, as I said earlier on, you could use a LAN connection and do a direct connection to the Snap inverter. Okay. However, in both cases, it's very important that you already know the IP address of the data manager. Once you have done that, you then need to open up the Solar.Service program, okay, from your applications. Once you have opened it up, you're going to see you have these four main ports. So if you look at port 1, that's your setup menu, okay. The second button, that's your refresh button. Number 3, that's your display for any current connections, okay. And the fourth button, and that is the add connection. So if you want to add a new connection, such as a new inverter, you just click on add connection. Once you've done that, you click the refresh button. You then establish a new connection, okay. Example, via wireless LAN or via LAN. And once you've done that, you then need to click on add. Okay, so your PV system name, that can be any name that you deem necessary for the PV system. However, the IP address is very important. And the IP address, if you want to get the IP address of that inverter, you could use the Datalogger finder, which I showed you earlier on, or you could even view the IP address on Solarweb. of the inverter. Once you've done that, you then need to click on the Add button, and your system communication will now be established. So then you've got to click on the desired connection. The connection will be established, and once an active connection is established, an overview of all components in the PV system will be displayed. Okay, so in this scenario, I entered into a system, and it shows me that in the specific system, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Fronius inverters, and I also have a data manager card installed. Okay, I'm going to run you through a live system of the Solar.Service application. Okay, so firstly, what we do need to do is we need to search, go to your programs, and we firstly need to get the IP address of the inverter that we want to connect to. So let's search for the Datalogger finder. Okay, we've now found it. The application will now open up. And once the application opens up, it will start to search for any Fronius inverters in the same server that your laptop is connected to. Okay, so the results are back, and in this specific network, I have 4 Fronius inverters. Okay, I'm going to click and select this inverter over here. So I'm picking the third inverter. Once you've done that, just click on select. You'll then get taken to the web user interface of the Fronius inverter. And as you all know, the web user interface is a platform for commissioning between the user and the inverter. Okay, however, this webinar does not cover commissioning, so we will not be going into that. All I wanted to show you is how to obtain the IP address. If you look at the top of your web browser, we then have a few digits, which will be your IP address. In this case, the IP address of the specific inverter is 10.71.101.0. Okay, so just note that down somewhere. Once you've done that, you then need to open up your Solar.Service program. Okay, you then need to click on Add Connection. Okay, let's call this a test system. Okay, it's very important that you have the correct IP address. So in this case, the specific inverter that you want to access has an IP address of 10.71.101.0. Okay, once you've done that, you can click on Add. Okay, you'll get a notification. Just say allow. Okay, connection is established. As you can see in this specific installation, I have a data manager and I have a Fronius Primal 8.2 kilowatts inverter. Okay, let's have a look at the inverter. So we just have to click on it. And we can see currently this inverter is supplying 4.44 kilowatts of power. Also, the AC voltage, it's a single phase inverter, so the AC voltage here is about 233 volts. The DC voltage per string, okay, all our strings are balanced, so it's about 464 volts. Okay, so if I go down, you can also have a look at different menus such as service codes, device firmware versions. You can also look at the switch off limits, which might be of interest to you. So this specific inverter was set to microgrid 50. So these are the parameters for microgrid 50. And this was using a Victron Fronius AC coupled system. So you can see that upper frequency of 52.8 hertz, which was set under the country code. Okay, then we can also have a look at the power modules. Okay, so it's loading. Okay, so we can see the grid voltage on a nice analog scale. We can also have a look at the output power currently. And we can also see what the different trackers are producing. So MPPT1 is producing 2.28 kilowatts and MPPT2 is producing 2.27 kilowatts at the moment. Okay, if you go down, we can see the generator voltage is sitting at about 463 volts. Okay, we can also have a look at the currents per tracker. So our first tracker has 5.22 amps and our second tracker has 5.18 amps. Okay, what's really cool as well is that we can see our isolation value. So at the moment it's 20 mega ohms. And we can also see the total VDC max. So this was my maximum voltage for the day, which was 561 volts. Okay, we can also see the total operating time. So this is the total operating time from whenever this inverter was first commissioned. So it's already been producing over 2,000 hours of power. Okay, you can also then have a look at various other things. I mean, you can also do like, check if the USB stick is in there, for if you want to do USB updating. You can also have a look at the switch off limits, which I told you about earlier on. So for example, if you set a country code and if you're not sure about what exactly those limits are, you can always, view those switch off limits in this tab. You can't change these limits here, you can only view them. If you do want to change these limits, you can request a code from our tech support team, and then you can go about, changing these limits. Okay, so I think that's about it from Solar.Service. Obviously, you can, if you got your data manager there, you can view your data manager as well. Also, if you have a sensor card installed, you can also view the sensor card and see what it's producing as well. So yeah, it's a really cool program to have as a Fronius installer, and I really suggest that if you are installing Fronius inverters, please just have this installed on a laptop. Okay, it's a very handy tool. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, so that's the content for today's webinar. Before we conclude, I'd just like to launch a poll. I'd really appreciate if everybody could share their inputs. Okay, how do you usually commission a PV inverter? Using a web browser on a laptop, using an application on a smartphone, or do you use the inverter display? I will be keeping the poll open for another 10 seconds. I'd like to share the results with you. So we can see the majority of today's audience still prefer a web browser on a laptop. Personally, that is my favorite way of doing things as well. Secondly, 29% was using an application on a smartphone. Okay, and thirdly, using the inverter display navigations. Okay, just remember with Fronius inverters, you can only use the first two options. You cannot use the inverter display to commission the inverter. Okay. Okay, if you do want any other further information, that will also be available. And yeah, the link for that, you should be able to see it now. Yeah, the link for that is over here. And just remember, we will be sending this presentation out to you. So once you get this presentation, you can go to this link and then you can get more information on all our digital solutions and applications from Fronius, as well as the various download links as well. Okay, we also have a YouTube playlist, which is dedicated for Sub-Saharan Africa. And on this playlist, you can pretty much see every single webinar we've done, the Sub-Saharan African Fronius team. And yeah, you can watch that at your own leisure, anytime and any place. Okay, if you do have further questions, please make sure that you use the appropriate contact number on your screen. And we will be keeping the line open for another 5 minutes. So please make sure that you do post any questions that you might have. And yeah, we will try and answer them all in today's webinar. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you for attending, and bye from my side. And we shall hopefully see you next week in our webinar. Goodbye.